Okay, I think I'm there. I don't know. I hope I'm there. Good morning. This is different. I hope this works for you even better than it works for me. You know, getting together, gathering. The government can't permit it. The government can't prohibit it. Love is the great gathering. Love is the great gatherer. Being here, I get to be with my son Johnson this morning instead of Jim and Jerry and Vicky and so many friends. But I know you folks are with me. At least I hope you are on the other side of the camera doing the deal. But what I just focus on, not just right now, but all the time, what I try to focus on is that love is the great gathering. Love is the gatherer. Like Paul would say, maybe in 1 Corinthians 13, even if we had wall-to-wall worshipers at the Save Mart Center or Selland Arena, if we didn't have love, what would it matter? So it's the love that brings us together. It's the love that keeps us together, whether it's a couple of friends or a family. So let's see here. Love. We're live. Are we live? Don't know yet. I think we're live. We'll find out. We might be delayed in our being live. If we love, wherever love is loved, we are live. We live. Let's try that. We're in the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word. Let's try this one. In the beginning was love. And love was with God. And love was God. And love became flesh. Humanized. And He tabernacled among us. He dwelt among us. He dwells among us still. And that love, that light, he shines. He still shines in the darkness, and the darkness can't overwhelm it. But neither can the darkness understand it. Think about that. I'll sing the song. If you remember the lyrics, great. But just think about the truth of it. Love, forever love. Together love. Wherever love is lived, we live. We live in His light. Love, forever love. Together love. Wherever love is found, we're found. We're found in His light. But the darkness does not know. The darkness does not know. The darkness does not know. It cannot win. Love, forever love. Together love. Wherever love is loved, we live. We live in His light. Love, forever love. Wherever love is found, we're found. We are found by His light. But the darkness does not know. The darkness does not know. The darkness does not know. It cannot win. So shine, forever shine. Together shine. Wherever love is shown, we shine. We shine with that light. Love, forever love. Wherever love is shown, we shine. We shine with His light. But the darkness does not know. The darkness cannot know. The darkness does not 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 know. No, no, no. The darkness cannot know. It cannot win. But we can't live long lives out yonder. So just love right now and learn to live life well. 'Cause lives well lived will last forever. Where we'll love tomorrow, none can tell. Worry's such a waste, don't waste a minute. All the time you waste could taste sweet. And when you turn your back on what you've wasted, then you'll find your future is lying at your feet. But we can't go back, that life's back yonder. So just love right now and learn to live life well. 'Cause lives well lived will last forever. Where we'll love tomorrow, none can tell. Regret is such a waste, don't waste a minute. All that time you waste, it could taste sweet. But when you turn your back on what you wasted, you'll find your future is lying at your feet. We can't live long lives out yonder. Just love right now, learn to live life well. Lives well lived will last forever. Where we'll love tomorrow, none can tell. We can live long lives out yonder. Just love right now and learn to live life well. 'Cause lives well lived will last forever. Where we'll love tomorrow, your gentleness surrounds me. Your gentleness surrounds me. You are beauty and life. No darkness at all. My family here surrounds me. Your family here surrounds me. You are beauty Lord, thank you for the fact that you are good, entirely good, wholly good, absolutely good. No darkness at all. Lord, none of us are there yet, but we're heading that way. No man is perfectly good, entirely good, consistently good. But Lord, thank you for all the good folks that we've known, and thank you for the many good folks that we join together with, and the ones that we can reach out to that need your love. Lord, you encouraged us to trust in you with all our heart and not try to lean on our own understanding. You're always trying to keep us out of the dark. The darkness is there. But Lord, you always shine that light. No darkness at all. You're the Father of lights in whom there's no variation, no turning of shadow. Lord, as far as the gathering together right now, it doesn't matter. As long as love gathers us, we are gathered. And I thank you for this gathering. Lord, you know the needs of each person who's watching, whether at this moment or a week from now or a year from now online. Lord, time and space, it's insignificant. Love is the great gathering. Lord, love is the great gatherer. And you know the needs of every person, the needs of every family, the needs in their business, the sense of loneliness that some are just so struggling with in these times particularly. Lord, you know all of that. Help us to know you better as we enjoy this time together in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so the guitar goes up. Whoop. Low ceiling on the wall. There it is. I kind of feel a little bit like Mr. Rogers here. I really need a sweater and come into the room. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Okay. Yeah. We're in the Gospel according to John. John chapter 7. Since I don't see you, please feel free on the Facebook thing. I can't see that, but I see the messages, the comments left. You can always reach out to me. By the way, the Bruce at ccfresno.org, that got broken. If you sent me a desperate note on that in the last few months, I didn't forget you. I just never got it. But the one I send out the things on more recently, Bruce Mumper at outlook.com, that one's still good to send a hi. But hi to all of you. John chapter 7 is where we're studying right now. We started here last week, and this is the one where John uniquely shows us how Jesus celebrated the Feast of Tabernacles. Three big feasts: Tabernacles, Passover, Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement. Those were the three biggies. But as far as how Jesus celebrated the Feast of Tabernacles, he did it the way he celebrated all of the feasts. He was the feast. He wasn't just the life of the party, like we saw when he turned the water into wine. He is the party. He is the feast. He lived the feast. He is the tabernacles. The Word became flesh. Love became human, and he tabernacled among us. He lived in a tent along with us, as we're all in these tents. He is the tabernacle feast. He is the Passover. He is the Day of the Atonement. He lived the feast. He feasted on life. He's an example to us of how to live in every way. Every day is a holy day. Every day is a holiday. This is the day that the Lord has made. That's the way Jesus lived. Not religious ceremonies. Got to go up to Jerusalem. This is one of the big three. I was brought up in Roman Catholicism and just countless beautiful things that I learned there. Mostly about Jesus. But, because it's a religious system, and I went to Catholic school and was, well versed in, oh boy, better do this, better do that. And there are certain religious holidays, the high holidays. Boy, you better. They called them holy days of obligation. You better do it. But that's not the way it works. That's not the way Jesus works. And so he himself is always feasting and celebrating life, not religious ceremony, but a celebration of life. And why in the world would you want to celebrate living in tents? Why would you want to celebrate ever being homeless? Well, because in remembering where you've come from, maybe you can help people where they're at. Maybe it helps with humility. Jesus, if anyone had a right to be prideful, I guess it would have been Jesus. But who was more humble than he? And so the love of God became flesh. It tabernacles among us, still tabernacling among us. He's intense with us. We're all intense. We're just passing through here. That's the idea. And we start reading there in chapter 7, verse 1. It says, after these things, Jesus was walking in Galilee, for he was unwilling to walk in Judea, because the Jews were seeking to kill him. Now, the feast of the Jews, the feast of tabernacles, or booths, the feast of tabernacles was at hand. And his brothers said to Jesus, depart from here and go up into Judea, so that your disciples also may behold your works that you're doing. For no one does anything in secret when he himself seeks to be known publicly. If you do these things, then show yourself to the world. For not even his brothers were believing in him. And we talked about that last week. I think they were good brothers. I don't think that they doubted his morals or even his miracles. But they questioned his methods. And that's really what it comes to believing. Not can he do miracles, is does he approach things with wisdom? Why doesn't he do more? Why doesn't he act more quickly? Again, trust the Lord with all your heart. His brothers weren't there yet. I'm not there yet. But from their worldview, from their standpoint of how to make something work, they were absolutely right. Go up and don't be secretive about it. Let everyone know who you are. Go to the place where all the people are gathered. And so it's not a slight on them that they said what they said. They just thought that he was unwise in the way that he was working. His methods just seemed questionable. And so it says there in verse 6, Jesus said to them, my time has not yet come. It's not yet at hand. Now your time is always opportune. The world can't hate you. It hates me because I testify of it that its deeds are evil. So you guys go up to the feast yourselves. I'm not going up to the feast because my time has not yet fully come. And having said these things to them, he stayed there in Galilee. So as we saw, he will go privately, but not publicly, because he knows it'll be at a Passover feast sometime later. And he'll end up being crucified. But the things he says to them, I think, is just giving them the freedom to go, because, hey, you guys fit in with this world the way it's presently working. There was no friction, there was no trouble in that regard, but for Jesus, he testified against the world. Not Caesar, not the Greeks, not the Samaritans, not the Syrophoenicians, against the world the way it worked in the Jewish temple. Jesus had been making it clear, not just the cleansing of the temple and overturning the tables, the way in which he showed mercy, even on a Sabbath. Showing mercy on a Sabbath? Yeah. It's an everyday deal. God's forever merciful. And Jesus was forever Jesus. And so, for his brothers, he said, you guys go. But for me, the time hasn't come yet. Now he knows, as we know, the only time he ever put on or ever was a public show, it was his public shame. He picked the time. It was the day. And that week began with coming in on a donkey, and it went out carrying a cross. Came into Jerusalem, everyone saying Hosanna, and Jesus wept, because you guys don't know what makes for peace. But he went out in the end, though he carried the cross, he was at peace. Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. He was making peace. But that public shame as he hung there on the cross on the public highway out of Jerusalem, that was the only show. And who understands? It's so deep, it's so profound still. But Jesus is making it clear it's not that time yet. Crucifixion. It's what will happen when the powers of this world feel threatened. And again, it's not the power of Rome. Pilate didn't understand. What's this whole deal about? It's the ways of this world. The ways that were at work there in Jerusalem. The ways that Jesus came to set us free from. Not because he hates the world, but he loves people in the world. It's just the ways of the world, the powers of this world. Lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, boastful pride of life. That stuff is corrosive, it's toxic, it's poisoning. And so when Jesus overturned the tables there in the temple, he was making it clear that, look, it's not going to be that stuff getting in the way of people anymore. And the people who profited from that system, they felt threatened. They were the ones who were leading the charge to put him to death, and yet Jesus died for them. And so those passions of the world, Jesus did come to overthrow those. But it has to be one heart at a time, one person at a time, to say, you know what, I want to be free from all of that striving and boasting and all of that toxic stuff. I want the kingdom of heaven at work in my heart. I want to follow love and the purity of love. I want to build relationships as my God has with me. Jesus came to set folks free from that, but he came into a religious world, a religious place, and of course that's how it all plays out. And so it says there that he stayed in Galilee for a while, but verse 10 tells us that when his brothers had also gone up to the feast, then he went up, but he didn't go up publicly. He went, as it were, in secret. Now the Jews, therefore, were seeking him at the feast. They were saying, where is he? And there was a lot of grumbling among the multitude concerning him. Some were saying, he's a good man. Others were saying, no. On the contrary, he leads the multitude astray. Yet no one was speaking openly of him for fear of the Jews. Now fear will do that to you. It'll shut you down. It won't change your heart or mind in a good way, but it'll paralyze and it'll shut you down. And no one was speaking openly at that time. And there was something in the air. Everyone knew it. No one could put their finger on it. No one could say exactly what it was. We read a number of these verses. I hope maybe you read the whole chapter like I suggested last week. This chapter's filled, like the world around us, filled with confusion and all this swirling chaos and all these different points of view and opinions. But there's a lot of fear. And no one's speaking openly. But there's a storm brewing. There's a distant thunder, and it's often heard in the mutterings and the low tones of grumblings that take place under the breath of the crowds, the peoples. And that's what John refers to here, is that there was a lot of grumbling among the crowds, among the multitudes concerning him. And so as they're in that situation, it says that they expressed a couple of different opinions. And nowadays, we get online and it doesn't matter what you believe. You'll find a forum, you'll find a web page, you'll find people who believe that too. But, I guess the world's not so different. There was all kinds of opinions and beliefs and stuff happening there among the crowd. But for the sake of our learning, John just limits it to two. There's just two main parties here as far as verse 12 goes. One party says he's a good man. The other says, no, he leads the multitude astray. So just one way or the other. Again, you look on later in the chapter, there's all these different ways, but right now just two different ways. No one openly talking about it, but two different ways. And the first one was, he's a good man. And that's a pretty good argument. He's a good man. And as far as it goes, to simply say he's a good man, as far as that goes, why do you have to even go further? He's certainly not someone to crucify, but neither is he the one to suddenly kick out the Romans. And that's not the way you're going to find peace anyway. Jesus said no man is good, but he certainly didn't mean that no one's good at all. And we can always take Paul's words out of context when he struggles with something in his own personal life, and we can come up with some sort of total depravity. And if you want total depravity, you can find it in the Bible, but I find a lot of goodness, and I find a lot of folks on their way, and they're not there yet. But to find somebody who's truly good, now Jesus was perfect. And I don't think anyone could find fault with him as far as his goodness goes. But the group that said he's a good man, isn't good enough? Wouldn't that? And the other party, the party on the other side here in verse 12 is not saying, oh no, he's not a good man, he's a bad man. Look, we caught him doing this and we saw him doing that. Nobody said he was a bad man. That wasn't the other side of the argument. He's a good man. Now, Jesus said, beware of wolves in sheep's clothing. Beware of those who would not just mislead you, but they would gobble you up whole, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. But Jesus never ever gave a warning to leave us in fear. He always gave what we could do so that we don't have to be afraid. He says, look at the fruit. The fruit will reveal the character every single time. Look at the fruit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. If you found that, and of course it overflowed in Jesus, that's enough. Jesus was a good man. And perfect love casts out all fear. And he was somebody that, and yet for other people that just wasn't, here's the other side of it as far as they were concerned. And that perfect love that casts out fear, fear is what fuels the other party. Fear is what keeps them going. Fear is the one that says, oh no. He leads the crowds astray. It's not that he's a bad man, it's just that he's leading people in a bad direction. And it's that fear of, oh my goodness, he's letting people out of the box, he's letting people off the line, he's unhooking them from our whole religious set of requirements and hooks, and look at what he allows. That's essentially what they're saying. When they say he leads the people astray, if you go right to the Greek language on it, it's not that he's controlling their minds or manipulating them with the words that he says. It's that he's simply allowing people to wander. In fact, the very word about astray is the word that's used about the one sheep that goes astray, the 99 who don't. The whole idea of wandering, going astray. Jesus allowed people to go astray. Not that he wanted them to go astray. Not that he told anyone they should go astray. It's just that he didn't control and he didn't corral. And he didn't operate like the religious leaders did. He allowed wandering. He allowed freedom. They didn't say, oh no, he's scattering the sheep. He didn't come in with some divisive doctrines. He didn't come in and say, you got to do this. Oh no, it's not on Saturday, it's supposed to be Friday. Oh, it's not supposed to be the Reds, it's supposed to be the Blues. He didn't come up with more silly religious rules. He just simply said that the rules were supposed to serve man. And people who served the rules were really threatened by that. And so Jesus, as we'll see later in chapter 10, he says, I'm the good shepherd. And the good shepherd comes to liberate people. Not just, oh, they're people, they're sheeple. We got to keep them in line. We got to tell them what to do. Jesus came to liberate, because you know what? That's what love does. Love liberates. And Jesus always led with love so that he could gather with love, so that we could walk in love. And perfect love casts out all fear. So one group says he allows people to wander. The first group, they say he's a good man. The second group says, oh, but he allows people to think for themselves. He's allowing them to wander. I would say, based on what we've studied, he frees people to walk. Like the man in chapter 5, do you want to get well? Get up and walk. He frees people to walk. That's what love does. He frees people to walk. And then like we saw a couple of weeks ago in chapter 6, he also frees people to walk away. Do you want to go? I'm not going to condemn you. Love leaves you free. That makes it meaningful when you choose to walk together. One of the typical things, a lot of times, I don't know if anyone sits down and says, here's how to make a cult. or here's a class you can take at Fresno State, Cult Leading 101. There's a lot of money in it, but I don't know if anyone ever sits and says, here's the way to do it. But there are certain slogans and certain things that are done in ways, and fear is often the idea, and this, you got to keep the people from wandering. You got to keep the people safe. You got to keep the people protected. One of those phrases that I heard the other day, and it just reminded me of how often I've heard it, it's the idea of being under the umbrella. When you come to this church, when you belong to our group, when you're in our little family, you are under the covering. You are under the headship. You are under the umbrella. And, that's a good way to keep you right there. If the agenda of somebody is to keep you right there. But Jesus doesn't operate that way. And so what if you get wet? Be free to walk. Be free to think for yourself. Be free to explore. That's the idea. But here at this point, one group says He's a good man. And really that should be good enough. The editor says, oh, but where is this leading? Boy, my goodness, if you allow that goodness to keep on going, we might not have anybody as part of our system anymore. They might not be coming and doing our temple thing, which, by the way, they're not doing anymore. All those have-tos, got-tos, holy things of obligation, they were all blown up by Jesus because he wants people to be free, not under obligation, but free. But at any rate, it says that no one was speaking openly of him for fear of the Jews. But when it was now in the midst of this Feast of Tabernacles, Jesus went up into the temple and he began to teach, because that's how he led people into freedom. And the Jews, therefore, were marveling, saying, how has this man become educated, learned, having never been educated in accordance with our system? Again, Jesus didn't come off as an illiterate or an uneducated person, not quite obviously, just the opposite. But he didn't go to one of their schools, and there's a certain, not just the credentials, but even a certain approach based on, you went to this school or you went to that seminary, and Jesus, his credibility wasn't based upon a certain number of people who stamped his sheepskin and said, there, you're the guy. Those kinds of things we tend to put a lot of stock in, but again, here's Jesus' answer to that. Jesus answered them and he said, verse 16, my teaching is not mine, but it belongs to him who sent me. It belongs to the Father. If anyone is willing to do the Father's will, then he'll know of the teaching, whether it actually comes from God or whether I'm just speaking from myself. Now, the will of God. What's the will of God? You know. People tell you a lot of stuff, but you know. Love God. Entirely. Love God. And love your neighbor as yourself. But since you've never seen God and you can really kid yourself about it, how about just love your neighbor as yourself? Love your brother. If you say you've loved God and you hate your brother, John later in a letter says you're just kidding yourself. You're lying to yourself. So just love people. That's the will of God, that we love people. Which people? Everyone, even your enemy, if you have any. So the will of God is to love people, and Jesus makes it clear that if that's your only agenda, if all you want to do is just learn to love people, then you will read the words of Jesus and you will have no issue. I don't know that anyone ever has. The words of Jesus are incredibly kind and loving words, and it's not like people have problems who just want to love others. They may think he went too far with it, especially that part about loving your enemies. That just doesn't seem practical. Turning the other cheek and going the extra mile, and come on. But if all you want to do is learn to love people, I don't think you're going to wonder, are those words the words of God? It just comes down to what do you want? Just like the guy back in chapter 5. You're lame, but do you want to walk? Do you want to get well? So, if you just want to love people, no problem. Words of Jesus, like Peter said, where else would we go to hear words like that? But if your agenda is something a little bit more, now we always say, I just want to love you. But if in fact, though you may not be aware, if in fact your desire is to control people, keep them in your camp, have them a little bit on the hook so that you have a little bit of say, not because you want to manipulate them, but you want to keep them safe. Those poor little people, you want to be there, Okay. People do that. They've always done that. They still do that. And if you want to corral people into your camp, if you want to keep them from going astray, according to your astray, then you might have a lot of problems with what Jesus said. And certainly the religious leaders of his time, they had a lot of trouble with what he said and what he did because he just didn't go along with the system the way they had it working. But the words of Jesus were never light on love. And so if all you want to do is learn to love, no problem with what Jesus said. Jesus tells us, verse 18, he who speaks out from himself is just seeking his own glory. But someone who's seeking the glory of the one who sent him, then he is true. And there's no unrighteousness in him. All of us have a bias. All of us have an opinion. If all you do is speak from your own bias and opinion, then you're trying to promote You're trying to propagate that bias and opinion. But if, on the other hand, you just want to love and learn to love and propagate love, then there's no glory in that. A lot of reward in it, a lot of love in it, a lot of satisfaction in it, but no, not that kind of glory. Again, the Word became flesh and tabernacled among us. We beheld His glory, but what's the glory we beheld? It was like the glory between a parent and a precious child. Not that kind of glory. Jesus said, "Didn't Moses give you the law, and yet none of you carries out the law? Why do you seek to kill me?" And the multitude said, "You're crazy. You have a demon. Who seeks to kill you?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "I did one deed, and you all marvel. On this account Moses has given you circumcision, not because it came from Moses, it came from the fathers. And on the Sabbath you will circumcise a man. Now if a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath, so that the law of Moses may not be broken, are you angry with me because I made an entire man well on the Sabbath?" Jesus said, look, you got all these laws and all these rules, and one came before the other, and you just like all the legal systems to this day, there's precedent, and there's some sort of ruling and a judgment that came back. And again, these folks were religious lawyers, and they all had their reasons. And Jesus said, okay, you guys are fine with the fact that a little bitty piece of a person, a little part of someone's body could be cut away on a Sabbath, because that's the way the rules work. But I come and make a man whole and complete. I enable his body to stand up and walk on a Sabbath, and you say, that's wrong? And of course the answer is the ways of the world. Not the ways of the world in Rome or in some other religion. The ways of the world in the Jewish religion. Lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, boastful pride of life. You've made this system. Jesus testified of those ways. Those ways are toxic, they're corrosive, they're evil. He not only said it, he proved it because he took care of people, even on a Sabbath. And they're all offended and upset, and come on, just go along with it. If you can heal people, why don't you wait till Sunday or Monday? But Jesus made it clear. Again, what is lust? It's passion without compassion. It's this desire for something irrespective of what it does or how it affects anyone else. That's just something I want. And I boast because I've got it. It's toxic. And Jesus makes it clear. Look, if you had any real compassion for people, instead of just passion for your religion, you would not be offended at the fact that I help people on the Sabbath. You would not find any struggle with that sort of thing at all. And of course, that's what Jesus wants to set them free from. He wants to set us all free from that. Get off all the religious rigmarole and just learn to have compassion for people. Learn to love people. And so he sets that forth, and then finally, as far as we'll go today, he says in verse 24, don't judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment, with just judgment. So Jesus did say to judge. Judge with just judgment. But that judgment, it's not to criticize, not to try and correct or corral or persuade someone, convert them. You think like I think. Until you do, I've got a lot of things to criticize you about. It's not that kind of critical judgment. It's not about condemnation, certainly. It's not about drawing the verdict and saying that's the way it is and I know. It's not judgment in any sense that would be unfair. But we do need to make just judgments. We need to judge justly, fairly. And it's not according to appearance, he made that clear. But that Greek word to judge is, of course we have to do it. It's a word that just simply means compare. Look at this, look at that, compare, and then choose. It means to sift and discern and analyze distinguish the difference. And then decide. Make a decision based upon a true judgment. But don't be afraid to judge. I've often seen folks, again, the more religiously inclined, especially the ones that want a leader. Oh, please, please tell me what to do. I don't want to make a decision. Tell me what to do, Pastor. Tell me what to do. Hi, mucky muck priest. Tell me what to do. Come, tell me. Call no man teacher, leader, father, rabbi. You have one in heaven. We're all brothers, sisters. We're family. But the freedom to choose is a wonderful freedom. Don't be afraid to choose. But don't choose based upon appearance. Don't choose based upon, well, whoa, look at that. Remember how often Jesus would say, look, all these stones and this big work that Herod did, it ain't that big a deal. That little woman you never would have noticed who gave him a couple of pennies, now that was huge. But rather than judge and make decisions based upon what you see, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, boastful pride of life, it's the big deal, it's the big up-and-coming thing, it's the cutting edge. Be careful, that stuff, it cuts both ways, and it's something so much better to with your heart and with love as your guideline, to look at the value. And then choose and decide. And don't be afraid. But in terms of judging with righteous judgment, here in this context, good place to stay and end. Here in this context, it takes us back to those two camps, back in verse 12. The one that said, he's a good man. And the other said, well, he's allowing people to wander. Again, those two camps weren't oppositional. It wasn't he's a good man, he's a bad man. It wasn't he allows people to wander, or he's very controlling, doesn't let anyone wander, everyone's in lockstep. It wasn't a contrast in that sense. It was, is it good? Can you be a good man and still allow people the freedom, if they want, to wander? To be a prodigal son, if that's what they want to be. To stay outside and I'm not going to the party because my brother's back. To allow you the freedom to wait till you can make a good judgment. But to allow you the freedom, is that good? The first group said he's a good man. And of course he's good. Is it good to allow people to have that kind of freedom? Is he liberating in a frightening way? And some people see that. Especially the people in Jesus' time. Is it good to set people free? Is it good to tell people they're free? It's very good. It's very. I wish I would have done it more and more often. And I know that some folks sometimes say, whoa, I'm afraid Bruce might be leading people astray. I don't want to lead anybody. I've always been a pointer, like the dog. I would point. You know that. I've always pointed to Jesus. I'll always point to Jesus. He's the good shepherd. Follow him. Follow him. But it's good to let people choose. It's very good. Very good to enjoy your freedom. Again, when Jesus talks about the world, it's not the people of this world. God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. It's not the countless good pleasures in this world. So many beautiful things God created, and they're good. It's the passions of the world. And sometimes the places where that's worst, hardest to see, and yet like any poison, most damaging. It's in religious institutions. It's in that place where now I'm in the camp and I'm under the umbrella and I'm afraid to think differently. I would encourage you always. Talk to Jesus. Trust in Jesus. Don't be afraid, little flock. Your Heavenly Father has chosen gladly to give you the kingdom. Not because you got it all right, not because you figured it out, not because you're afraid to take a wrong step. Don't judge according to appearance, but do judge with just judgment. Judge justly. Choose freely. In love. Look for the good. Wherever you find it, whoever you find it in, look for the good. Find the good. Wherever you can find it. Follow the good. Isn't that good enough? How far astray will anyone go if that really is their goal? I just want to follow love. I'm not so sure about your system, but you know what? I just want to follow love. Hey, fine. You'll do fine. How about a closing song? I'm not going to pick the guitar off the wall, but if you'd like to echo with me, let's pick an Old Testament one. Let's see. He has shown thee, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of thee, just to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with thy God. Yeah. Okay, we're going to stay live from here on out. Wherever love is loved, we're live. But I'm going to turn off this phone here.